Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another haul video. This one's a little bit different because I've actually watched some of the films that I bought. Some I need to re-watch, but I'll just go through the items that I picked up. Now, Imprint, as we know, is an Australian label, who sometimes the shipping it's a little bit too much and the prices are a little bit too much, so you can kind of pick and choose on eBay if somebody is selling a slightly cheaper one. But they were doing a sale, 3 for 40 Australian dollars, which works out roughly about 20 poundingtons, which was just too good of a deal. I couldn't help myself. The sale is no longer on, but if you want to give some money to the Australian economy, Umbrella are currently doing a buy one get one free on slipcover editions, standard editions. They were doing some for $10 Australian dollars, and they were doing a box set sale as well on some of the box sets. So for example, the Li Chang Dong was down to $35. Granted, that was the standard edition, but still, that's 3 Li Chang Dongs for 35 Australian dollars, which works out about 18 British poundingtons. I'm just waiting to see if they do a collector's edition. Not that I would take part in that at all. I think this might be the first year that I'm not going to take part in the Nova Media Winter sale, which is now live. Obviously I might change my mind if I win the lottery or something. But anyway, let's go through these Imprint titles. I got some Imprint Asia, a Via Vision box set, basically for 2 films, but it's totally worth it, and a kind of special edition kind of box set that they do. So we'll go through them and you can let me know how mad I am. So from 1990, this is Mountains of the Moon by Bob Rafelson. I haven't watched this yet, but I have seen it before. I believe I watched it in VHS, or even on the television if it had been on once in Britain. This is from 1990, based on the true story of Richard Burton, not that one, and John Speck in the 1850s as they try and find the origin of the Nile, with Ian Glenn and Patrick Bergin. It's a wonderful little underrated film. It's quite brutal in places. If you're not familiar with Imprint, you don't get a booklet or anything. You get inside artwork and you get the sleeve. But this one, you know, Imprint, very much like Kino Lorber for example, you either get tons of extras or not a lot. So this one's fairly stacked. You get a commentary from 2024 with historian Peter Tunget. Be Careful with Obsessions, Bob Rafelson, Henry Yaglom, and 2 Paths to Capturing Reality, interview with film director Henry Yaglom from 2023. You get Peter Rafelson, Bob Rafelson's son, from 2023. You get an interview from 2023 with Patrick Bergin, and you get a 2023 piece by Josh Karp, who's an author and journalist, about Bob Rafelson, and there's also an archive making of from 1990. It's 2 hours and 16 minutes. I do remember this when it came out in the cinema, not that I saw it in the cinema. Now Via Vision are generally all region free, which is wonderful as well. So looking forward to re-watching this. Now one of the ones that I haven't watched yet, it's from 1977, and it's Islands in the Stream with George C. Scott. If you're familiar with the channel, you know I'm not a huge George C. Scott fan, even though I've got a few of his films and they're all some of my favourite films of all time, but never mind. So this is from 1977. This is based on a Hemingway book, directed by Franklin J. Schaeffer. Thomas Hudson is a sculptor whose self-imposed isolation in the Bahamas is ended by two forces: the visit of his sons and the outbreak of World War II. So I wonder if George C. Scott shouts in this film at all. There he is there, probably thinking about shouting at somebody. And the disc is in the machine. The disc is in my player, so it's next on the list to watch. This has got a commentary by Sam Dane from 2023, and it's got a video essay by Daniel Kramer from 2023, Franklin J. Schaeffer's auteur, and it's also got a piece with Daniel Kramer and Nat Segaloff discuss Hemingway on film from 2023. So looking forward to this one, where possibly George C. Scott shouts. Next, a film, it's a prequel, but I haven't actually seen the first one, but I thought I would buy it, seeing it was so cheap. This is part of the Imprint Asia line. This is spine number 4, and this is The Wandering Earth 2, which is the prequel to The Wandering Earth. This is just a little bit under 3 hours. Bizarrely, it seems to be quite difficult to get the first one on Blu-ray. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right places. But this is part 2, and all you get is a trailer. So I'll try and pick up the first one, even though this is a prequel, so I suppose I should really watch this one first. But that's The Wandering Earth. Give it a go. So this is 4K, one of their special box sets. I mean, Kino Lorber's got this in 4K, Arrow's got this in 4K, but because it was on sale, I just went for this because it's got a lovely lenticular. This is Invasion of the Body Snatchers 1978 with Philip Kaufman. It's got a lovely lenticular, so that's why I plumped for it. Now this is a film that I never used to like that much, because I absolutely adore, you do get art cards, I absolutely adore the Don Siegel 1956 original. So I always has a kind of bee in my bonnet for this one. But obviously as I've got older, I've kind of let some of those prejudices go. You know, I never really liked A Fistful of Dollars, even though it's obviously Sergio Leone, because obviously Yojimbo's better. But because of my love for Volonte, I now like Fistful of Dollars a lot more than I used to, and it's the same with this one. This one is absolutely brilliant, and it's not, you know, I still prefer the Don Siegel one, just for economy, but this one is excellent as well, and it's a really nice kind of different take set in San Francisco. There's different subtext going on in the 1956 one. This is a familiar artwork of Kino Lorber, and this one is stacked as well, and unlike certain people like Arrow, this one actually has the Blu-ray as well as the 4K. The 4K looks really nice. The 4K is Dolby Vision. There's a commentary by Philip Kaufman, and there's a commentary by author, film historian Steve Haberman, and the original trailer. And the Blu-ray has an interview with Brooke Adams, an interview with screenwriter W.D. Richter, interview with composer Danny Zeitlin, interview with Art Hindle, an interview with Jack Finney expert Jack Seabrook. Jack Finney who wrote the story, and there's 4 featurettes, and there's also a trailer from Hell with Josh Olson. So this was completely unnecessary. I mean, it is an upgrade. I just had the Arrow Blu-ray, the old one, but because this was on sale, I kind of just plumped for that beautiful lenticular, because it's a really nice addition. Now from 2002, a film that I wasn't really aware of, by Kei Kumai. This is from Akira Kurosawa's last script, which he wrote in 1993. This is The Sea is Watching. Now Kurosawa's always been criticised for not having particularly great roles for women or having a view on women. I think he's a bit like Scorsese, he's just doesn't really know about women particularly. But this is female centric and it's quite a wonderful little film that brought a tear to a glass eye. This is set in a 19th century brothel. As we know, most great films are set in 19th century brothels. And this is about a young geisha and her relationship with two samurai. The first one she kind of hides because he's being chased, and she grows fond of him. He's currently serving a ban from the clan. He's trying to get his life back together, and she thinks there's going to be romance. And then there's another down in his luck samurai played with familiar face Nagase Matatoshi, who you'll have seen from Jim Jarmusch films and of course the Maiku Hama trilogy, which I recently did a video on. And again, her relationship with him, it's all set, as I say, in the background of the brothel with the madam and a couple other geishas, and these are characters you actually grow to like and you want to spend time with them. It's just a beautiful little film. It's just a clip under 2 hours. It does have some dodgy CGI later in the film involving the sea, but overall it's a wonderful little melodrama. As I said, it'll bring a tear to a glass eye. Great performances, and again, it's characters you actually want to spend time with, which obviously seems to be a harder and harder thing for people to write these days. So this was a little gem from 2002. I would highly recommend it if you can find it. This is The Sea Is Watching. Lots of Kurosawa wind and rain and water and mud, so that's quite wonderful. Another film that I remember when it came out at the time in 1991, but was kind of forgotten about pretty quickly. This is Men of Respect, which is a gangster version of Macbeth. It's got a great cast. John Turturro, I didn't actually realise his wife in real life, Catherine Borowitz, Dennis Farina, Peter Boyle, Rod Steiger, Stephen Wright, the wonderful deadpan comedian, has a deadpan cameo. Stanley Tucci, an early role. It was written and directed by William Riley, who never directed anything else. This does feel very much like a passion project. I think he wrote the script for Mortal Thoughts with Demi Moore, which is in one of Imprint's noir, neo-noir sets. But like I say, he never directed anything else. This is 1991, so it's like a year after Goodfellas and King of New York and Miller's Crossing. There's 3 actors from Miller's Crossing in Men of Respect. This edition only has the trailer, which is a bit of a shame. It'd be nice to have a commentary. This has flaws. Obviously not everything Macbeth can kind of translate into gangsters. But if you're not aware of the Macbeth story, it works just as a crime drama. And if you're familiar with Macbeth, there's nice little moments that are ticked quite nicely. Catherine Horowitz makes a nice Lady Macbeth. John Turturro is twitchy as ever, so he gets the paranoia right as things progress. Dennis Farina as Macduff is wonderful. Who wouldn't want Dennis Farina as Macduff? Stanley Tucci is one of Rod Steiger's sons. There's a nice kind of spin on the woods coming to the castle at the end. There's a nice little variation on that, which will make you smile. There's no real reason for it, but it's a nice little touch. So again, it's not perfect, but it's actually a nice little film that again has kind of been forgotten about and overshadowed by kind of the gangster films round about the same time, but it's well worth a little look. Now the Viavision box set, this was for one reason, but then I realised it's actually for two reasons. It's the Dracula lenticular. Now they have lenticular sets of the Mummy and Frankenstein. I think they've got one of the Invisible Man as well, and the Wolfman, which of course I'm not going to get, because I mean I've got these films, or the main films, on 4K. I've got them in Blu-ray steelbooks. So I'm not going to buy them all again on just because there's lenticular box sets. But again, I've had my eye on this for this reason. Dracula's Daughter. You could make an argument it's the best Universal horror film, even though it's not really a horror film. Lots of wonderful subtext going on. So this is from 1936. Takes up right after, literally right after Dracula's been staked by Van Helsing. And his daughter, played by Gloria Holden, who's just wonderful, amazing eyes. She wants to take Dracula's body to get rid of the curse. So it's a vampire film where the vampire actually doesn't want to be a vampire anymore. And it's absolutely wonderful. I just had it in DVD, which wasn't the best copy, but this looks wonderful on Blu-ray. So you get Dracula, you also get the Spanish 1931 version, which is actually better than the Bela Lugosi original one. There's a ton of extras on the Dracula. There's commentaries and an introduction. There's a commentary by Dracula Dead and Loving It screenwriter Steve Haberman. There's a alternate score by Philip Glass. I mean, most of these will probably be on the 4K sets and the Blu-ray sets that have been released years ago. But you also get Dracula's Daughter, which was kind of the reason I bought the set. Son of Dracula, which I thought I actually had, but I didn't have. That's with Lon Chaney Jr. in the swamps of Louisiana, which is wonderful. It's probably the second best film in this set. And House of Dracula from 1945. So I bought it for one film, ended up realising I actually bought it for two films, and they're the two best films on the set, Dracula's Daughter and Son of Dracula. Well, because it was in the sale, because it's been on eBay for like 50 quid or something like that, so I got it a lot more cheaper than that in the sale. And again, you get lovely art cards. And if you've never seen Dracula's Daughter, it's well worth a look, because it's absolutely wonderful. And again, each of the films have their own disc in the set. So again, very much like the lenticular Invasion of the Body Snatchers, this was a little bit of a treat. But I like the fact that she is front and centre, because it's the best film in the set, despite what Bela Lugosi might say. Next, you can always get some more Sam Fuller. So this is 1957's China Gate, with a very young Angie Dickinson. I think she was 26. So this is Sam Fuller's Vietnam War film before the Vietnam War. This is based in the Indochina, the French Indochina War, the beginnings of the Ho Chi Minh. And this again is a lot more socio-political because it's Sam Fuller. Granted, Angie Dickinson is playing half Caucasian, half Chinese. Lee Van Cleef is in it as a Chinese general. But if you overlook that sort of thing, there's wonderful little things going on. Gene Barry plays the soldier who is on this mission, and they have to take Angie Dickinson to go along to find where Lee Van Cleef has all his weapons. He had a child with Angie Dickinson, but because the child came out Chinese, he is doesn't want anything to do with it because he's a bit of a racist. And again, Sam Fuller, in Sam Fuller fashion, tells the truth and doesn't sugarcoat stuff. But the real surprise of this film, apart from Lee Van Cleef as a Chinese general, is Nat King Cole. Nat King Cole obviously was in a few films, generally playing himself. He does sing the title track, China Gate, but it's just as a soldier just singing. Granted, everyone else drops out and it's Nat King Cole singing, but it's not as if he's in a bar singing it. But he's really good as a soldier who, it is wonderful because everybody in the rest of the kind of band of misfits for this mission, they all hate Gene Barry, which is wonderful. And Nat King Cole hates Gene Barry because he doesn't want anything to do with his kid, and all Nat King Cole wants is to have a kid, but his wife couldn't have a kid. So there's lots of wonderful quiet character stuff where everybody hates Gene Barry. There's a little bit of action as well, tension. I mean, is it one of Sam Fuller's best films? Probably not, but it's wonderful to add it to the collection. And you do kind of wonder, you kind of wish Nat King Cole got better, meatier roles in this, rather than just essentially playing himself and singing a song and then disappearing for the rest of the film. He's really good in this. There's one moment where he puts his foot through a spike, which is wonderful. So there's a commentary by Sam Dane again, always does good work, from 2022. Peace of Mind, a personal look at China Gate by Samantha Fuller and Krista Lang Fuller from 2022. And there's a nice little video essay by Kat Ellinger from 2022 about Angie Dickinson's early roles. So this was a lovely little film. It's a lovely little film. 95 minutes, it's probably like 10 minutes too long. But I was not expecting Nat King Cole to be really good in a dramatic role rather than just a singing role, and Lee Van Cleef as a Chinese general or major. From 1945, a fun little quickie, The Woman Who Came Back. Again, 66 minutes, 68 minutes. A woman comes back to her hometown, believing that she's cursed by a witch who was burned alive 300 years earlier, and she thinks she's a witch as well. And everybody points fingers, and it's a lovely little film. This has got a commentary by Kelly Robinson from 2024. David Huckvale, who does the wonderful music pieces on Hammer things, etc. He does a piece on The Woman Who Came Back from 2024, and Haunted by the Witch from Salem to Eben Rock, a video essay by Joseph Dwyer from 2024. So it's just a lovely little 1945 quickie. Lots of beautiful black and white cinematography, lots of atmosphere, and just quite wonderful. And for a sale price of 3 for 40 Australian dollars, you can't go wrong with that. Another Imprint Asia. I think I'll now have maybe 5 Imprint Asia titles. This is Vengeance of a Snow Girl, and this is a Shaw Brothers film from 1971. It's 2 hours and 2 minutes, which is pretty long for a Shaw Brothers film. Usually about an hour and 40. Again, this is a fun one. This is another one in the kind of vein of the disabled martial arts expert, the Snow Girl, who has these emerald swords / crutches that she makes good use of. This has got a commentary by cult film critic Ian Jane from 2025. It's film scholar Luke White on Vengeance of a Snow Girl from 2025, and there's archival interviews with actor Ku Feng and actress Lisa Chow Chow. That's not how you pronounce her name. It's directed by Lo Wei, and this is lots of fun. That's her at the end, trying to get to a spa to get feeling back in her legs. And there's like golden clawed weapons, and it's, again, it's probably a little bit overlong, but it's lots of fun. I mean, it's Shaw Brothers. It's a crippled woman with emerald swords. I mean, what more can you possibly want? And then finally, Spy Number 195 from 1972. Alistair MacLean's Fear is the Key. This also has an Arrow release. And this is a little corker. One of the better Alistair MacLean adaptations. I'm not sure why it's not talked about more. Starring Barry Newman. Of course, is probably more famous for Petrocelli, but he'll always be Kowalski to me from Vanishing Point the year before. Susie Kendall. But this has got a wonderful, interesting cast and crew. John Vernon coming off of Dirty Harry. Ben Kingsley's in it as a character called Royale, who's the top henchman of John Vernon. He's 29 at the time, so he actually has a full-ish head of hair, even though you can see he'll be balding at some point, but he's got a luscious head of black hair and those piercing eyes. So that's a lovely surprise. This was co-produced by Joseph Losey's son Gavrick Losey, who's got an interview from 2022. There's a commentary with Kim Newman and Sean Hogan from 2022, and Bayou to Bray interviews with cast and crew, because some of it was shot at Bray Studios or near Bray Studios for the underwater stuff. So it's a really wonderful little film. It starts off pretty much with a 20-minute car chase. Barry Newman turns up in this Louisiana small town, gets into a fight deliberately with the police. He ends up in court and then breaks out of court, pinching Susie Kendall and driving off in a Gran Torino. And there's like a 20-minute car chase before he's apprehended by this ex-cop who takes him back to Susie Kendall's dad, played by Ray McNally. So it's this mix of British and American. It was directed by Michael Tushner, who's a pretty interesting director. He did Villain with Richard Burton. What are you looking at? The year before, in 1971. And Ray McNally has got into bed, so to speak, with John Vernon and Ben Kingsley and some henchmen. Kowalski, Barry Newman is a deep water diving expert, and they need him to do a job. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but he's got a past. He's got like revenge in his mind. It's wonderful because like the first half hour you've got no real clue of what's going on as far as why is Barry Newman doing this, why is Kowalski doing this, but it all kind of comes out in the wash. It's wonderfully macabre at points. Barry Newman should have been a bigger star, but again, he did Petrocelli and TV and kind of got, some people end up being on TV. But The Lawyer by Sidney J. Furie, which pretty much became Petrocelli on TV, and of course Vanishing Point, just one of the greatest films of all time. There is lots of Vanishing Point kind of stares by Barry Newman in this. John Vernon's wonderful, and again Ben Kingsley, it's funny seeing him with hair. Yeah, it's just lots of fun. So I would highly recommend Fear is the Key. To be honest, as I said, I've still to see Wandering Earth 2 and Islands in the Stream. I've still to rewatch Mountains of the Moon on Blu-ray. But the rest of them I would highly recommend. And I would certainly recommend watching Dracula's Daughter and Son of Dracula, because Son of Dracula has some nice little moments in it that add to the vampire mythos. Even though you could argue Lon Chaney's a little bit miscast, but he's quite a He's quite a chubby Dracula. You don't really see too many chubby Draculas. But thanks very much for watching. So that's a bunch of imprints I got, and they're 3 for 40 Australian dollars sale. So please let me know if you've seen any of these films and what you think of them, and hopefully you'll join me again for more videos. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films saying farewell.